Hey, Cursed Pages listeners. You're about to hear the prologue for a one-of-a-kind, genre-bending crime fiction podcast that injects you directly into the story. Be the first to listen to the new series by subscribing to Cursed Pages now on your favorite podcast platform. And be advised, this content is meant for mature audiences.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for inviting me into your ears. My name is Mark Hosack. I'm your host here at Cursed Pages, and if I promise you anything tonight, it's gonna be this. Everything I'm about to tell you is completely true. Except, of course, for the parts I make up. Now, listen, one thing I'm not making up is that there are both angels and devils on this earth, and most of us have one perched upon either shoulder. But if you happen to have two angels and zero devils, if your sense of common decency finds four-letter words and murders most foul, offensive, if you can take no pleasure in a tale about incredibly bad choices in a gray and shapeless world, please, as much as it pains me, it would be better for us to just part ways now. So, go on, turn this off. We'll chat later. I'll call you. Just you and me. Good. Now I can be myself. You can be yourself. We can be ourselves, which means that tonight we're not going to just listen to a story. We're going to drive deep into the heart of it. Of course, to do that, I'm going to have to ask you to leave the comfort of your home or your car or wherever it is that you're listening to these words. I'm going to have to ask you to open your door and step outside. I know it's nighttime. I know it's dark with just a rind of moon and cold stars overhead. But I want you to look closely. Do you see it? The light blue 2015 Toyota Sienna idling beneath the flickering streetlight. Yes, it's a minivan, a family minivan, and no, you can't knock it until you have kids. Though I assure you, the Cursed Pages we're going to read tonight were not ripped from the binding of a children's book. The good guys do not vanquish the monsters any more than the middle-aged man with wild, unkempt hair in 3 days of scruff. The dude sitting behind the wheel of that minivan is some kind of knight in shining armor. He's not. He's me. And I'm opening the minivan's door for you. I'm wiping away the cracker crumbs my kids left on the seat because if you're still here, if you're still listening to these words, I can only assume you've shooed your better angels away, that only the devils remain, and that you're ready for the dark road ahead. So climb on in and let's ride together to tonight's story. It's not far, just a hop, skip, and a jump away to Vegas, baby! But not the wild, sexy Vegas. Not the one you see in glossy advertisements. We're not throwing craps tonight, and we're not getting comped free buffets. And we certainly aren't getting laid. No, we're headed to Green Street, the worst neighborhood in Vegas, where tonight's Cursed Pages are waiting for us in the blood-soaked bedroom of a 4-story stucco apartment building. Of course, in this neighborhood, our family minivan is going to stick out like a sore thumb, so do me a favor and keep the windows up and the doors locked, and I'll get us to our destination just as fast as I can. just down the street. Do you see it? That beige 4-story stucco apartment building? That's where this madness begins. That's where Casper Dupree and Henry Mumford are brutally murdered by Yoshi Takahashi. Yeah, that's what I said. Yoshi Takahashi, the criminal mastermind of the Southwest. That's where tonight's cursed pages are waiting to tell us what happens next. So, come on, let's get this over with. Wait a second. Hang on. The hell is that? That thing in the street lying in front of us. Is that the apartment's security gate? Jesus. That's not supposed to happen. I didn't write that. I mean, nobody rips down the front gate. What the? Son, are you okay? What was that thing that came out the window? It was huge and black. And the window on the second floor of the apartment building had shattered, and there's blood. There's blood on the drape. Why is there blood slathered on the drape? Okay, listen. This is going to sound really strange, but I did not write that. I did not write any of this. It's not the way this was supposed to go. We were supposed to get here. We were supposed to go up to the apartment. We were supposed to meet with Yoshi Takahashi. And Yoshi Takahashi was going to sit down and read us tonight's cursed pages. But now, whatever just happened at that apartment, I didn't do that. But we're here. We've come this far. So, I mean, we gotta go, right? We gotta go up there? Right, so you go first. Just ignore the prostitutes and the drug addicts staring up at the window like we are, wondering what that blood-curdled scream was, and just make your way up the concrete staircase. Go to the second floor. I'm right behind you, I swear to God. Okay. Stop right there. Do you see that apartment? Apartment number 202. That's where Yoshi Takahashi was supposed to murder Casper and Henry, but that door's been ripped down too. Don't worry. Whatever did this, it crashed through that window. It scurried away. It's gone. There's nothing left in here but blood. Oh my God. The entire living room is drenched in blood. In the bedroom where the cursed pages are, I can see the stack of papers on the bed. Oh my God. Close your eyes. Don't ask me why. Just do it. Just close your eyes. Are you doing it? Are you closing your eyes? Okay, good. Because there's something on the ground that no mortal should ever lay eyes upon. It belongs to Yoshi Takahashi, and it rhymes with bed, and it rhymes with dead, and it rhymes with Fred, and it rhymes with lead, and
I heard the Diablo.
Shh. Someone's coming. Quick, get in the bedroom. I'll grab the cursed pages. Just get in the closet.
For free. If the Diablo works for free, then how could we have killed someone?
I don't think that's what it seems that we did.
We did not.
Shh. It's Casper and Henry. They're alive, but they're supposed to be dead. Out of my way. Let me see through the crack in the closet door. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. They have a white hatbox, and they're picking up Yoshi Takahashi's head.
Let's go get the fuck out of here, Henry.
Okay. It's over. They're gone. Oh, you can open your eyes, but But none of this makes sense. Casper and Henry, they're not supposed to be alive. They're supposed to be dead. They couldn't have outsmarted Yoshi Takahashi. I mean, the guy's the criminal mastermind of the Southwest. He was supposed to kill them. That's what this whole story was about. It was about their deaths. Somehow no, not they. Somehow something killed Takahashi first. But what? You're right. The answer, it's right here in my hands, in tonight's cursed pages. If something rewrote Casper and Henry's deaths, surely they rewrote these too. All we have to do is read them. That's a great idea. I'm glad that you had it. I really am. Go on, take it. Take the pages. No. I'm good. Stop it. No. You read it. No. Fine. I'll read it. But whatever happens next is not my fault. Okay. Here we go. Cursed Pages, Volume 1. Written by Mark Hosack. Rewritten by Unknown. Somewhere near the Nevada-California state line.
Oh, the payphone. I went to the Diablo.
The hell was that, Henry? Casper muttered, his words sticking to the cobwebs of near sleep. A light blue minivan had just whipped past on the dark desert road, half rousing him from his slumber. Nothing, Casper, came his partner's deep, rumbling voice. Just another car.
Surprised there's another anything out here,
Casper said, unable to stifle a yawn. Wherever here is. You sure we're going the right way, Casper?
The only thing I'm sure of, Henry, is that I need a little more sleep, so just keep your eyes on the road, your hands upon the wheel, and wake me when we get there, all right?
Hoping that had been the end of the conversation, Casper Dupree shifted in his seat, trying to get comfortable, trying to get back to his lost dream. Fat chance. It was freezing. I mean, sure, he had his powder blue suit jacket wrapped tightly around him, but it was paper thin and had been grazed over for years by moths. The Pinto's heater didn't work, and probably hadn't since it rolled off the assembly line, and let's not forget about the constant rattle, like a possessed massage chair. The rickety car was one bump away from spewing shocks, bolts, and lug nuts across the dark two-lane highway. A single jolt away from complete and utter disaster. The story of Casper's so-called life. God, what a miserable night. And it wasn't just the drive either. I mean, sure, they were leaving civilization and the bright lights of I-40 far behind. They might get lost, or worse, their car might break down. And in a desert like this, on a night like this, where everything, from the Big Bang to the here and now, was on the line, well, anything might happen. Still, this is the easy part, Casper thought grimly. What had happened earlier in that terrible apartment off Green Street, what he'd seen in the bedroom, what he and Henry had been forced to do after they'd stepped inside. Don't go there, he told himself, inhaling sharply. The desert is your problem. The Pinto with the busted heater and the one functional headlight is your problem. But Yoshi Takahashi's murder does not belong to you. Now, technically, this was true. At 50 years old, Casper had developed neither the skills nor the testicular fortitude to kill a man like Yoshi Takahashi. For that matter, Casper hadn't even wanted him dead, nor had he advocated for it by saying something stupid, like, "Hey, I got a swell idea. Let's go kill the criminal mastermind of the Southwest. No, that particular sin belonged to Iris Kasdan, Yoshi Takahashi's adopted daughter, the young woman set to inherit Takahashi's empire upon his demise. So, motive and all. Casper Dupree, on the other hand, had no bone to pick. No dog in the fight. No beef at all with Yoshi Takahashi. He'd merely been charged with getting rid of what was left of the man after the murder. Hence this little midnight jaunt to the desert. As for what came next, well, the details were still murky, but Iris said she always paid her debts. And as the once and future mortgage king of Vegas, Casper had his eye on scoring the commission to refinance the Takahashi Casino and Family Resort. If he played his cards right, perhaps he could even convince Iris to buy an extra point or two. Perhaps, after all these years, he would finally break even with Vegas, a city that had robbed him blind. But first, he was going to get a little shut-eye. Casper fumbled for the recline lever at the bottom of his seat, found it, and pulled, only to have it break off in his hand, of course, because it was that kind of a night. He swore, but not too loudly. He didn't want Henry Mumford, the enormous man hunched behind the wheel of the Pinto beside him, to engage, so he just muttered a quiet little, "Fuck!" And then he held his breath, immediately regretting the slip-up. Had he said it too loud? Had Henry heard him? Casper cracked an eye and took stock of the hulking silhouette sitting next to him in the driver's seat. The mountain of hair, the ill-fitted navy blue suit, the slow, dopey grin that was apparently superglued to the man's face. How anyone of such magnitude fit inside a 1983 Ford Pinto without a crowbar and a tube of lube was completely beyond him. Yet there Henry was, hunched behind the wheel, his bald head pressed against the ceiling, one beefy hand at 10 o'clock, the other beefy hand at 2, his old, muddy, unblinking eyes fixed upon the dark desert before them, as though he was worried that if he looked away, everything might just disappear. Casper's worry was this. Henry was undoubtedly dying to pass the time with just a little conversation, and his ill-advised "fuck," though muttered under his breath, might have been just enough for Henry to ask, "What's wrong, Casper?" And then there would be no end. Casper had only known Henry a few days, but he was already convinced that Henry Mumford had been bred for a singular purpose: to talk. And when the big man wasn't talking, the big man was sighing. And when the big man wasn't sighing, the big man was eating. And when the big man wasn't eating, the big man was talking again. Why? Why couldn't he shut up? What else was there to say? That Yoshi Takahashi was dead? Well, no shit! They both knew that. They'd both walked into that apartment off Green Street. They'd both looked inside that hatbox in the back seat. A hatbox that contained all that was left of Takahashi's mortal remains, which, admittedly, wasn't much. But didn't that mean that the murder had gone extraordinarily well? One might even say stupendously well. Magnificently well. And didn't that mean something? Not that any of this was Casper's fault. Nor Henry's fault, for that matter. It was Iris's fault, and if Henry didn't get that, Casper couldn't help him. Casper certainly couldn't sleep, not with the enormous man-ape sitting next to him, clearly dying to relive every precious moment, to ooh and ah at the horror of it all, even though he told Henry not to wake him until they got there because
I'm trying to fucking sleep,
Casper blurted, unable to stop himself. I didn't say anything, Casper.
You were thinking it.
But I didn't say it. I didn't say a word.
Then just keep not saying anything, Henry. And do me a favor, don't think about it either.
I'll try, Casper.
Shouldn't be difficult,
Casper grumbled, closing his eyes and pulling his thin suit jacket tight.
Not thinking, that is.
Now, Henry wasn't stupid. He knew the surest way to think about something was to not think about something. Like that time he gave up ice cream for Lent. For 40 days and 40 nights, Henry had done his darndest to think about anything other than America's favorite dessert. Yet for 40 days and 40 nights, he had thought of nothing but Ben & Jerry's, Bluebell Creameries, Dryers, slow churned. And let's not forget about the toppings, sprinkles and caramel and cookie dough. Stop, Henry told himself. This is no time for the hunger mongers, as his mother used to say when, as a child, his stomach grumbled in church, often for whatever reason during the Lord's Prayer. They weren't in church, but they were in the middle of the desert, miles, hours, eons from civilization. Thinking about ice cream wasn't going to do him or Casper a lick of good. Lick. Then again, neither would not thinking about it, he realized glumly, because not thinking about it only made him think about it more. Still, if he could somehow forget about ice cream, perhaps he could use that same technique to forget about what he'd seen in that apartment off Green Street. Not that he was thinking about that either. Okay, he was, but how couldn't he? What he'd seen in that apartment had been horrible, perhaps the most god-awful sight in his 60-odd years, and Henry had seen some things. But Casper Dupree, his new partner, his new friend, was absolutely right. Dwelling upon it wouldn't undo what had been done. But if Henry had a superpower, it was exactly that. The man could dwell. It's what he did. Unlike Casper Dupree, who apparently couldn't dwell, who couldn't be bothered with notions like right or wrong, who knew exactly what he wanted and stuck with a plan no matter who got hurt, no matter who got killed. I mean, just look at him. His baby blue eyes were once again closed. He'd made himself all snugly beneath his powder blue jacket. He was a bit smelly, true, but smoking did that. It made you stink, though Henry had heard that the smoker, him or herself, couldn't really smell it, because their nose got all plugged up with cigarette smoke, so Henry certainly couldn't fault Casper for being stinky, not when Casper couldn't smell himself. Now that he was looking at him, Henry also couldn't help but to notice that Casper didn't really look like his glamour shots on his billboards anymore either. You know, the ones around Vegas promoting his mortgage business. Not that looks mattered. As a man of intimidating size, Henry himself was often the victim of nervous stares and sideways glances, so he wasn't about to judge the deep lines that had creeped across Casper's face, nor the spouts of white in his once lustrous hair, not even the bald spot and the nervous tics that plagued him even while he slept, or pretended to sleep. But at least Casper wasn't dwelling, and neither was Henry for that matter. No, Henry was keeping his thoughts on the here and now, not the yesterday and then, and certainly not on ice cream, not on Ben & Jerry's, not on Bluebell Creameries, not on Dryers slow churned. Henry pushed the parasitic ice cream thoughts aside. He focused on driving. His strong hands gripped the steering wheel at 10 and 2 o'clock. His sizable foot pressed the gas pedal, maintaining a reasonable speed. He checked his side view mirrors often, just in case that light blue minivan circled back and needed to pass on that lost 2-lane highway, a road that was literally in the middle of nowhere, running an hour north of I-40, flanking the scrubby periphery of the vast Mojave Desert. There were no streetlights, no spillover fluorescent glow from a gas station, and there hadn't been for miles, and outside and above, there was nothing but a black blanket of cold stars. Henry shuddered. The same stars, he couldn't help but to think, that were hung above that apartment off Green Street, where Yoshi Takahashi, the criminal mastermind of the Southwest, had tragically lost his head. Henry's gaze drifted to the rearview mirror. Even in the darkness, maybe especially in the darkness, he could see a tall, white hatbox sitting in the back seat. All that remained of Yoshi Takahashi. Just barely enough to fill a box. The Pinto hit a bump. The shocks groaned. The road had taken a turn for the worse. Apparently, the car had coughed its way out of Nevada into California, a state that had either neglected or just plain forgotten about this stretch of lost highway. Henry thought about waking Casper. He thought about telling him that they should turn around, that their car was one pothole away from complete and utter disaster. But then the Pinto's headlight fell upon a brown sign, pockmarked with bullet holes. The sign read, "Next gas, 90 miles. Some 100 feet later, they passed a second sign, which read, "Always hydrate." And then a third sign appeared, "Deadly wildlife." "Hey, Casper," Henry muttered. I think we're here." Casper opened his eyes, and it was there, in the darkness before them, in the dull yellow glow of the Pinto's only good headlight, that the two men witnessed one final sign, a sign that read, "Miracle Desert."
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Cursed Pages, Volume 1. Be sure to subscribe now at your favorite podcast platform, and please visit cursedpages.com to sign up for our newsletter. Of course, if you enjoyed this podcast, please share it and leave a review.